We're excited to have you get us started here in the shop. You're going to show us step by step exactly how you build these beautiful face frame cabinets. Give us an idea what you use for some of your major power tools in the shop.
Well, as far as tools go, you're going to want minimum a table saw, a thickness planer, and a jointer. The table saw, you should spend a couple of bucks on. It needs to be a good saw, it needs to be powerful. You can get away with a job site saw, but the more powerful the tool is, the safer it is, believe it or not. So, you know, I'm not going to endorse any brand. I like a lot of brands. This happens to be a saw stop. It has safety features that other saws don't. And it's available in 1.5 horse, 5 horsepower, 7.5 horsepower. So it's all up to you what you want to spend money on.
This is a nice, smooth, easy to operate saw, but it's not the only table saw that you have, right?
No, and if you want to spend the money for the extended fence and table, that's fine also.
Really not necessary
to be it's not necessary.
Quite this big. This happens to be a brand new saw that replaced one that did not work out. Tell us about the job site saw that you've used just as much to build cabinets.
Well, I have a DeWalt portable job site saw, which in my opinion is the best one out there. It's powerful and it's accurate, and it'll well handle anything I can do with this saw.
All right. Now I see that you don't have the blade guard on the saw. I know there's a reason for that. Tell us.
No, the blade guard for a lot of saws, it's a big contraption that actually can get in the way. If you can't use it to make dados, you can't use it to make certain cuts because you need to see what you're doing and you need to be able to see the blade. I don't use a guard on any of my tools. That's my preference. Even a riving knife, I take that off my saw also. There's nothing wrong with leaving it on, but I just don't like anything around my blade, even my fingers.
So do as I say, not do as I do.
Yeah.
So the operator has to make up his own mind. I mean, obviously, if he's not utilizing those safety features, it's quite important to keep his hand and fingers out of the blade.
If you keep your hand away from the blade, you'll never cut it.
All right.
And the most important thing is don't let anybody distract you from what you're doing.
All right.
The next thing would be a thickness planer. This happens to be a 3 horsepower model. That's
Powermatic.
Powermatic. As far as I'm concerned, all the brands, they're all the same. Some are more expensive than others, but it's a motor with a pulley system. That's all it is. The one thing you want to do is get a spiral head cutter on it. That's a big cost extra on them, but it does a little nicer job and lasts longer than just straight blades.
Well, here again, you've made lots and lots of beautiful cabinets in your career with a job site straight blade planer, portable, Porter cable, I think, is one of...
Old 12-inch Porter cable.
All right.
And I had a DeWalt portable also. You're really not going to need to plane anything wider than 12 inches, basically, when you're building cabinets. So
I see. All right. So
and you can also use a planer as a jointer in some instances.
You'll be demonstrating that when you prepare the parts for this cabinet group.
Now the third is a jointer. You want a minimum of a 6-inch or 8-inch jointer. The 8-inch jointers come with a longer table, and
what do you use the jointer for?
To clean up the edges and square up the edges of my ripped pieces. You never want to make a finished cut on a table saw for a piece of lumber. Plywood is one thing, but if you're building face frames, you never leave a finished cut as a sized piece of material on the table, so you always have to joint it.
All right, so this is a pretty large industrial jointer. Could we get by with something smaller, less expensive?
Yeah, I have a little 8-inch benchtop jointer. It's 1.5 horsepower. It has extendable rails on it, and it'll more than handle whatever I need to do to build cabinets.
And this little jointer actually does have a helical head on it as well, doesn't it?
Yes, and this saw is about maybe $800, I think it was.
I
Less than half the cost of the smallest industrial jointer, and it'll easily handle anything you need in the shop.
Okay, so we move over to the compound miter saw.
Now the compound miter saw, there's so many out there. Again, you have to kind of feel what you want, just like you're buying a pair of shoes. It's got to be comfortable.
This is one of several that you're working with, right?
Yeah, we have a Festool Capex, we have a couple of DeWalt's, and we have this Makita, and you know, we have them stationed around the job site so we're not running all over the place. The saws are powerful, they're accurate, they do need a little tuning. Every power tool you buy needs to be tuned or squared up in some way.
Well, we're finding out, even with today's work, that the big 12-inch saw like this sometimes is a little bit too big for really fine work. There's nothing wrong with starting out with a 10-inch miter saw. That will do most of the work that you want, certainly for cabinet work and a lot of the trim work.
Yeah,
correct?
they also make, I think they're 6.5 or 7.25 inch miter boxes also, because a small molding like this can get dangerous to use on a big saw like this, because the little pieces can get caught and fly out. And in this case, this is too much power for a little piece of molding like this. It's not necessary.
All right. Well, after we have our parts sized and milled and so forth, eventually that takes us to the router table.
Yeah, you're gonna need this if you're gonna make your own moldings. This is a saw cabinet that we built, and we built the fence, and we made the top the size to accommodate what we want. Usually whatever you buy is very low, and they're much smaller and heavier. This is on wheels, so it's easy to move out of the way. We incorporated dust collection in the back of it, and it's important to have the dust collection right behind the bit, because the bit throws the material back and it goes right into this tube, and we barely get any sawdust on the work area of this as we're using it.
Now, I know you're set up here to make a bead molding and you don't want to disturb your setup, but we can look through and see you've got a nice router lift here.
The router lift
Tell us also about your fence.
The router lift is a Fox Shop brand. If you ask me, it's one of the better ones out there. The fence we made custom for our own use. It's a single fence. I don't like the double or two-piece fences because they get kind of fussy to adjust, and I've used a single fence for years and years, and I've made moldings, raised panel doors, and anything I needed to do with a single fence, and I just think it's better.
Right. And your cabinet gives you a little bit of storage for some of your tools, feather boards, etc.
This is just a catch canister for the router.
Okay.
It has a magnetic door, so you can open it and clean out any sawdust or service your router if you need to.
And then you've built in a power switch here on the right.
Yeah, the power switch comes with the router lift, so you can mount it wherever you want.
What do you think you have in this setup all in? I know you'd spend easily $600-700 just for a table that didn't satisfy.
Yeah, we're into this whole setup for about $800, including the router and the lift.
All right. What are you running for a router to do this work?
A 2.5 horsepower Porta-Cable variable speed. That router, any Porta-Cable router, is no longer available unless you can find one on eBay somewhere. They just don't make them anymore. And this, we set it up to work with the feather boards we have, and you can see how the feather boards work. It keeps the piece against the fence, and it keeps it down on the table. So
you've shown us the main power tools that you use for this kind of work. As we progress through your video series, you'll be introducing more of the intermediate sized tools as well as some of the small hand tools that you use. But your point is that you don't have to invest tens of thousands of dollars to get started.
No.
And you're going to show us simplified methods everywhere you can, hoping to inspire the serious hobbyist who wants to improve his work, or even the professional who's looking to up his game with cabinet making, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. We look forward to seeing the next steps. Thank you, Rich.
Okay.